Okay, now we got this recording. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So I think, I'll tackle just a light subject tonight, but hopefully it's something that will blow everybody away on how the Bible makes claims on one side and science makes claims on the other. And you think they're so far apart or they're going like this, but my teachings and my research shows how they actually come together and they fit perfectly like a glove. In fact, for the claims made in the Bible to be so accurate to align with science is really almost impossible to do unless it's true. And so it's exciting what science is uncovering and discovering that aligns with biblical scripture. And so it kind of makes it a tough subject for the atheist to say God can't exist when there's overwhelming support for the existence of God based on science. And atheism has one bastion, one pillar. They put all their eggs in one basket, and that's science. It's like science says there's no God, and that couldn't be further from the truth. And I'm going to cover one fantastic subject tonight that I think is a good place to start for people that are interested in quantum physics and what it has to do with revealing truths about God with our limited understanding and comprehension of how the universe works as human beings. So
good. And we got now Tyler and Julia, and then John, and then John Air. So we got some people coming on, even though, like I said, I probably sent this out to 60 people. But maybe if we end up with 25 or 30 by the time you get rolling here, I think that'll be a big success to start out with.
all right.
But you guys ask questions tonight, because don't ask me, because I won't give you the answer.
I'm not afraid of questions. I've had just about every type of question and I'll do my best to answer. If I don't know, I'll say I don't know.
I love that.
That makes it easy for me.
I love that. All
Sure.
right.
So do you want me to get started, or?
Go ahead and get started, Dennis, and give them just a little bit on your bio, your family, or where you're from. People don't know where you're from. I do, but they don't.
All right. Well, I live up here in the fourth corner. If you don't know where that is, that's near Vancouver, British Columbia, and Washington State, in a little town called Lyndon. And as I look out my window, I can see the Canadian border. I can walk there. And I'm Canadian, so I've been married 37 years to my beautiful wife, and high school kind of sweethearts. And we have two wonderful children. My daughter just got engaged last weekend.
Wow.
She's 29, so we're so excited for her.
Yeah.
And she's on fire for the Lord. And so we got on a plane last weekend and flew down to California where she's at. Her fiance popped in a question on Saturday. He said, hey, would you come down and we're gonna have a little party and surprise Hannah because it was her birthday. So we flew down. She had no idea we were gonna be there and had a super big surprise. What a fantastic day for my daughter to pop the question and have her parents there to help celebrate her engagement with her. Yeah, it's fantastic. And you know what? There was probably 40, 45 people there. And it's just exciting to see, 25 to 32-year-olds, all this group just so on fire for the Lord.
Wow.
And it was just really wonderful, beautiful for me to see, going, oh my gosh, it's great to have young adults like that.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I'm a little
older
little older demographic, and so it was just fantastic to see that. So
great.
and share with her. And then my son, he lives up near us. He's about an hour and a half away. We have a beautiful little grandson, Brooks. My wife's actually doing a little Zoom call with him right now. And I'm like, well, I'm going to miss that. I'll have to get the next one. I've got to tell some people about this incredible stuff about quantum physics.
There you go.
And so I've been studying, researching and studying quantum physics for about, I don't know, 13, 14 years. And I just came upon it Christmas Eve. And I was setting up like a ping pong table, I believe, for the kids. And I was down in the basement, and there was this NOVA program on with Dr. Brian Greene out of Columbia University called The Elegant Universe. And he was talking about quantum physics and string physics, just about the science. And I was just caught up in it going, wait a minute, this is about God. And I'm looking around, like, of course, I'm there all alone. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm looking around and like, how come nobody's talking about this? This has got God all written all over it. And it just resonated with me. And that just launched me on a journey to dive into this field and just listen to the Lord and follow where he directed me to go and what to study. I would have dreams.
Wow.
I remember this dream. There's a book by Richard Feynman, who's probably the second or third, maybe the fourth most recognized physicist in human history. You know, there's Einstein and there's Newton and there's Feynman. And he had a book called QED, Quantum Electrodynamics. And I was reading that book in my research and I was like, this thing's boring. I got nothing out of it. So I put it down. And I had this dream like a week later. And the dream's like, the Lord's like, go back and read that book. And I'm having this conversation with the Lord going, Lord, read that book. I mean, that book's, well, it's got nothing. It doesn't, go ahead and read that book again. And I got up that next morning and I'm like, okay, I have to read this book again. And it was like eating Frosted Flakes. It's like, you know, try them again for the first time. It just came alive and there was so much importance about this book with quantum electrodynamics on how atoms and molecules and interact. It was life-changing and really took my path of research and opened it up and opened my eyes in all kinds of directions. It's fantastic. It's just one example of following that. I mean, this is really the most exciting time in my mind for trying to understand how God works within his creation, because it's so many answers found within quantum physics. And we're really the first generation to have access to this discoveries on how particles and what we call reality, substance, actually works and comes into form. It's just fantastic. So, you know, it used to be with quantum physics, you'd have to be in the upper echelon classes at Oxford and MIT and Stanford to learn anything about quantum physics. Now it's all over the internet. You just have to be careful to find really good, accurate information on YouTube or the internet. And so you have to be very careful about what you get. But even classrooms like Stanford, MIT, you can actually go in and sit in on classes if you want to sit in on some classes on quantum physics at Stanford or MIT and sit in on some of the lectures. It's fantastic. But anyway, I want to talk about this thing. You see, I believe God and Jesus created the heavens and the earth and all life. I mean, we see that in Genesis 1:1. and which is, of course, everybody knows. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In John, the book of John, 1 through 3, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He, Christ, was in the beginning with God, and all things came into being through him, and apart from him, nothing came into being that has come into being. I believe that. And then I also believe that in science, science, the basis for science says they're searching for truth. And so for me, if that's true, then the things found in science, if they're looking for truth, are going to reveal evidences about our Creator, because our Creator is true and what He's created. And so if science is searching, even if they're saying, well, we're not exactly looking for God, we're looking for how things work. Well, if God created it, there's a connection here that they should be finding evidences of God. And that is what we find out. It's exciting. Now I'm going to give you a fantastic nugget tonight about what this type of connection looks like in how science actually uncovers evidences and supports the existence of God.
Right, right.
So I kind of look at it like a car analogy. There are people that love cars or rely on cars, right? And they're not exactly a historian or a gearhead, but they like their car. They rely on it. I drive it every day, and to me, that's like a typical Christian who believes in God. I believe in God, and God is life-giving, right? But I don't really, they're not a theologian, they're not, and so that's fantastic. Then there are the car enthusiasts, that's the historian. They know every make and model, the engine, what color. They could look at a car's taillights or bumper and know what year it was, right? And it's like, to me, those are like the historian. Those are like a theologian, right? You could say one scripture and boom, oh, that's this, right? And then there are the gearheads, and I kind of put myself in the category of a gearhead. Like, I'm not a mechanic for a car, but I'm a gearhead when it comes to quantum physics and how do things work in the universe. And I believe there's a place, for all three of these types of people, and it doesn't make one better than the other. It's just some people resonate to be, I believe in God, it's life-giving. And I think everybody's there, but then there's the theologian, and then there's people like me, the gearhead. So I kind of put myself in that category as a description. And so I believe my mission and my purpose is to try and uncover some of these evidences that science has and connect them to God and give God the glory in what science is finding. And over the years, my findings have been so life-changing for me that I've actually been able to find a way to experience heaven itself. And as the weeks go by, if we continue teaching, I get to continue to teach and show you the way of how I actually do this and find that way to go to heaven and experience it. It's unbelievably life-changing. I am like a different person now than I was before that. And so can I share my screen and kind of
Sure, go
show
ahead.
something here? Let's see what I've got here. I think you need to allow me to share a screen, Dr. C.
I don't know if I can do that or not. So share screen. And do I say what? Share? Allow?
Yeah, allow. All right, let's see here.
Which is that my screen? No,
I don't know.
either. We have this discussion several times, don't we? No,
Are you able to work?
no,
It
it's
is?
not mine. It's yours, I think.
All right, let's see if I got it now.
This is requested remote. I just say approve.
Can you see my screen?
Now I approve you to remote.
Okay, great.
Because you had requested to remote and I gave you approval.
All right, can you see my screen or no?
Not yet.
All right, let's try this.
Hey, Dickie,
Yes, sir.
can you do a email to Robin? She wants to know if we're doing the Zoom tonight.
Okay.
Let her know we're on now.
All right.
Well, it's not allowing me to show. Still need to allow me to show.
Well, I don't know what to hit to do that.
So if you go to participants, Dr. Cockerham,
Okay.
and then click on Dennis's name.
Participants.
Yeah,
Okay.
can you click on his name?
Yep.
Do you see where it allows him to share a screen?
It says more.
Go to more.
Make host.
You can make him host for now.
All right. There you go. You're a host, Dennis.
Oh, great, okay.
Thank you, Cindy. I knew you had a doctorate degree for some reason.
This is a miracle that I know how to tell you to do that.
I don't know anything about the Zoom. I do the basics.
Neither do I.
Do you see my screen now?
Yes.
A baby picture?
Yeah, okay. All right, do you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay. All right, here's kind of quantum physics really quickly in a nutshell. Quanta is a discrete amount of energy or matter. And so when you get to quantum physics, you're trying to get down to the fundamental level, the smallest level of matter or energy that exists. And so if we start with a little person or a baby, right, it's made up of all these types of cells. And if you go smaller, these cells are made up of molecules. And if you go smaller, molecules are made up of atoms. And in atoms, you've got the nucleus that has protons and neutrons and these things. This picture is wrong, but it's what everybody knows, that these electrons around, they're in these orbital shells around the nucleus, but you can go smaller. And so if you go smaller, the electron actually is a particle, fundamental particle, but in the nucleus, in these protons and neutrons, you have smaller particles called quarks. And the primary ones are up quarks and down quarks. And then in other teachings, we can get to this next level of strings. We won't really talk about that tonight. But when we're talking about quantum physics and quantum mechanics, we're talking about the smallest level down here of matter. And That one. This one. And there we go. And so this is a makeup of all the fundamental particles in the universe. There's 19, there's 18 that are quarks and leptons and force particles. And then there's gravity, which isn't in the standard model. It's kind of off on its own, which is another subject. But, and then there's particles and antiparticles. But of all of these, really, all the substance that makes up the things we can touch, see, taste, smell, and hear, the things that we call reality, you know, whether it's the stars, far off galaxies, or whether it's your pet poodle, you know, everything is made up of basically 3 particles of matter. And that's the electron, the up quark, and the down quark. And so
Is that going to be on the test?
that's on the test. So we'll come back up here now. So talking about these fundamental particles, we want to know basically how did they come into existence? Because at the beginning of the universe, these didn't exist. Only energy existed, and I'll get into that in a moment. And so tonight I want to explain how God, according to science, how science explains how creation came into existence, because the Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And so the Bible says there was a beginning and things got created. Now we have a correlation because science says there was a beginning and things got created because there was only energy at the beginning of the universe. And so how did all this matter, these particles come into existence, especially these 3 that make up really everything we call reality? Let's see if I can make myself work again. All right. Oh. See if I got what I want here. Yeah, okay, got that, got that. So for me, if we can discover how God created everything, for me, it was very profound. And I hope that this will have a profound reaction for you guys tonight as well. Because, for example, when I used to pray to God, it's like, I pray, God, I believe you, but where are you? It's like, is God way out there somewhere in the universe? Is he, it just seemed a little abstract to me. And as I tried to be more personal with the Almighty and with Jesus, it's like, it was just a little obscure going, where am I praying? And God come, it's like, where are you? There are some people that have a belief or theology that, you know, God basically started the universe and then boom, you sit back and let it go into motion and let it go on its own, and he's not actively, or God's not actively involved in his creation. And I've been able to find out that I don't believe that. I believe God is very active within his creation because that's what science says in connecting on how God works. And so it just had these profound, a profound reaction to me to be able to have a deeper connection and relationship with God. And so I hope you can get some of that tonight. So where I want to start with a couple scriptures, and that's going to be in Acts 22, 6, this is, in 22:6, this is Paul's encounter on the road to Damascus. And it's described in Acts 9, but when Paul talks about it later in Acts 22, he gets a little bit more detailed about it. And it's very important as we move forward in the whole basis about God working in his creation. So in 22:6, it says, and it came about that I, Paul, was on my way approaching Damascus about noontime. A very bright light suddenly flashed from heaven all around me. And I fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And I answered, who art thou, Lord? And he said to me, I am Jesus the Nazarene, whom you are persecuting. And those who were with me beheld the light, to be sure, but did not understand the voice of the one who was speaking to me. And I said, what shall I do, Lord? And the Lord said to me, arise and go into Damascus, and there you will be told that has been appointed for you to do. But since I could not see because of the glory of that light, I was led by the hand by those who were with me and came into Damascus. So here we have Jesus, who had ascended to heaven, comes to earth to have an encounter with Saul, who then gets converted to Paul, and he is manifesting as light. So here's another scripture that's important, and this is in Matthew 17, 1 and 2, the transfiguration story. And this is Jesus with 3 of the apostles, and it says, and 6 days later, Jesus took him, Peter, and James, or Jacob, and John, his brother, and brought them up to the high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured. And transfigured means transforming from one form to another. And so he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his garments became as white as light. So here we have 2 very important passages talking about Jesus. Here he's his flesh, he transforms into light, and he transforms back into flesh. And the apostles like can't believe what they saw, and Jesus is like, well, don't say anything about this until I've arisen from the dead. Okay, one more that's important here, and it's in 1 John 1, 5, and it says this. This is John writing about Jesus and what Jesus is preaching that day, and it says this, with John paraphrasing, and this is the message we have heard from him, from Christ, and announced to you, that God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. Now, as you can see, I have a theme coming here where the Bible, Jesus is manifesting his light. Jesus is declaring and claiming that God is light. And I mean, there are almost 100 passages when you look at them that describe or claim that Jesus or God is light. So if this is true, which I believe, I don't think you can dispute that the Bible says God is light. It's even in the Nicene Creed that God is light, light of light. If this is true, then what does science have to say about light? And that is what I've studied all the years, is the photon particle of light, and at the quantum level, and what it does within the universe Earth, the universe, and how things work. So I have this offer out there for anybody that if anybody can give me scientific proof or a scientific basis of why God isn't or can't be light, I'll give you $1,000. So anybody here on this call that's like, wait a minute, God can't be light. It's like, I'll give you $1,000 if you can give me scientific proof that God can't be light. Now, I've talked to non-believing quantum physicists or teachers that teach physics and offered this to them, and they said, you know, keep your money. There's nothing science can do to prove that God can't be science. Now, they may not believe it or find it difficult, but they cannot disprove it. And as a Christian, if it says it in the Bible, it's like, wait, I guess God is light. The problem is that we don't, or most people don't understand what light is or what light does. You know, we kind of think light is good, darkness is bad, light helps plants to grow, and that's true, but it does so many things. And tonight I'm going to show you one of the most incredible things what light actually does and did at the beginning of creation, because light actually created everything in the universe from nothing. So we'll bring those two things together really quickly here. All right. So I just want to bring up one of these slides here. On light, this one here is a chart. Light, which is, there are 4 forces of nature in the universe. That's it, that we call under our what we call the observable universe, what we call our reality, things we touch, see, smell, those things. A lot of scientists, you might hear things about dark energy, and I'm not including that one in because it really doesn't have to do with what we call our reality, the observable universe. And so there are only 4 forces of that have any type of energy or force, and that's gravity, strong nuclear force, electroweak force, which is like radiation, and the electromagnetic radiation, which is light. And so here's this chart, and light, which is continuous energy, scientists have broken it down into 7 categories. So for example, radio waves are a low form of energy, of light energy. You know, your room right now is filled with radio waves. We can't see them, touch them, but they're filled with that. And I think a lot of people are kind of amazed that, wait a minute, radio waves are light waves? Yeah, they are light waves. Your microwave oven uses light to heat its food, infrared, visible light, which most of us can understand what visible light is. Enables us to see ultraviolet, X-rays, and gamma rays. And so tonight, we're going to talk about these gamma rays over here and what they had to do with the creation of the universe. All right. And so Genesis 1:1, again, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Okay, so, and science talks about the Big Bang. Now, if you've read my book, A Quantum Case for God, then you will understand that quantum physics is very bizarre, and it's spectacular. And one of the ways it's bizarre is because quantum physics can explain how the universe and everything in it could be created in 6 days, you know, 10 to 50,000 years ago. But it also supports, you know, put that theology or belief in a new earth or new universe belief. For those that are in the old universe or old Earth belief, people like Dr. Hugh Ross with Reasons to Believe, who was an atheist, wanted to disprove God, and actually found God and has been a fantastic proponent and advocate for Christ for, gosh, must be 40 years now. I was able to meet him and fantastic person. He's an old Earth, so Big Bang type of thing, 13.8 billion years. But I just want to say, if I start talking about the Big Bang, I don't want you to think I'm totally against a new Earth or 6 days of creation. I support both, but tonight's presentation is going to lean more on science and their language about the Big Bang. So, all right. I don't want people to think I don't believe God could create in 6 days. I actually do believe that. All right. But we have this correlation, and here's what we have. We have, according to science, at the Big Bang moment, okay, we have, and that's about 13.8 billion years ago, we have a state that's called a singularity, and that singularity is a moment where the universe actually came into being. Scientists don't know what happened before this moment, but they do believe that at this moment of singularity, the four forces of nature, gravity, strong nuclear, electroweak, and the electromagnetic radiation, light, all existed as one super force. It was all together as one force. And the astonishing thing about this description is described by a physicist, is that the universe existed in a perfect state. It was so perfect, what we call our universe couldn't exist because it was too perfect. There was no entropy, there's no breakdown of matter from orderliness to disorderliness. It was all order. It was perfect. Now, I don't know about you, but that kind of sounds to me like a description of God. God is perfect. And here, science is saying, wait a minute, before we had this beginning, there was this singularity of perfectness with light, and God is light. And in future discussions, I'll talk about Einstein's time dilation and what that means for the description of eternity and not bound by time. Fascinating. I love that subject. But we have to move on here to this description of what happened here at this moment where the universe came into existence from nothing. There was no height, length, depth. It was all together in the super force. It broke apart into these four forces. Now, I believe God's all of these, but because the Bible specifically talks about light, most of my talks and teachings talk about what science has discovered about light. And so at this moment, there's only energy, right? Only energy existed. There's no matter. There's no electrons, up quarks or down quarks. And in a fraction of a second, I mean like 10 to the minus 20 or 10 to the minus 30 seconds. So that's like a trillion, billion, billionth of a second. All this matter came into existence. And science is able to know how this happened. And I'm going to come back here to this over here, our chart here of these particles. If we look here at an electron, we see this here 0.511 mega electron volts divided by the speed of light squared. This is how much an electron weighs. And so I'm sure everybody here has heard of E equals mc squared. Yes? E equals mc squared, Einstein's famous equation. That means that energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. And so basically it says that energy can turn into matter. And that's what happened here, right at the instance of the Big Bang. Electrons were created from light. And we know that it takes 0.511 mega electron volts, and that's in the gamma ray light spectrum, to create an electron. Now, at the same moment, you have to create the antiparticle, which is a positron, and so you have to double it. And so 1.02 mega electron volts of light energy creates electrons. So at this moment, picture this. Can you picture this? All, or practically all, of the electrons, up quarks and down quarks, needed in the whole universe, all the stars, space gas, air, the earth, you, me, these particles were created at this instance, less than a second of the beginning of the universe was created by God, by light. So science says that light created all the substance in the universe, and God has told us that he is light and that he created all the substance that makes up the heavens and the earth in the entire universe. Is that mind-blowing?
It's awesome.
It's all about light then.
What's that?
It's all about light.
It is all about light. I mean, all the electrons in your body, I mean, we're made up of trillions of cells in our body. And I mean, just one drop of water has, I forget the number of how many particles just in a drop of water. I think it's something like 10 to the 15 particles in one drop of water. So that's a 10 with 15 zeros. Don't quote me, I have it in my book and I can't remember every statistic. So, and that's just one drop of water. What are we made up of? 70% water, 80% water, and all of the atoms that make up molecules in our body. So just one person, just you, just me, all those particles were created at the instance of the Big Bang, or 10 to 50,000 years ago, depending on how you do the genealogy of Genesis. It's mind-blowing that we are literally made by light, by God.
Yes.
That's it.
Just to wrap our heads around that. And so when we look in the mirror, I want you to just think, God, there you are. You created me.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but that makes it a little bit more personal and a little bit more awe-inspiring. And it makes it a little bit more real to say, wait a minute, all this stuff is true. It really is. And I've got a lot of stuff that I can cover that goes even beyond this. But it's a good place to start, to get a grounding and a footing on, wait a minute. Wait, science does have a lot to say to support the existence of God and to help us with our limited comprehension get a better and deeper understanding about the Creator. And I'm not in any way saying that we're going to get it all figured out. But you know what I found out over these last 13, 14 years is the more I know, the bigger and the more awesome and incredible God and Christ are. And so I invite you to be in awe of the Creator with me.
Amen.
And so that's what I wanted to cover tonight. And if anyone has questions, that'd be great.
I do. I have two questions. So I don't want to get into something if you don't want to. You can just say no, pass later. I get it. It's late. But dark energy, would you consider that like loosh energy?
What energy?
Loosh?
Loosh.
Go look into it. It's just
Yeah, I'll look
negative.
into it.
Look
I
into
will say this, I was fortunate to be able to visit Fermilab, which is a particle accelerator outside of Chicago, Illinois, and it's the second largest or most powerful particle collider in the world. The largest is, everyone I'm sure has heard of CERN in Geneva, Switzerland, the Large Hadron Collider. Fermilab used to be the most powerful, but I got to visit there and chat with a couple people about dark energy and the possibility of how that comes into existence or what it is. And it was, we had some really, I thought, great discussions about it. And so, yeah, we'll see what happens with dark energy. So I'm going to write down Loosh.
LOOSH, loosh, yeah. I've just been studying a little bit about it lately. I thought maybe that's what the dark energy was you were referring to, because that would make sense. Another question real quick. The four forces came together: gravity, electromagnetic energy, and what else?
Electroweak, which is radiation. So if you have a breakdown, of atoms like plutonium, and they break apart and you get the isotopes and the breakdown, they'll break into other particles like neutrinos and that. So you'll have a radiation breakdown. So it's kind of decay. So it doesn't have really anything to do with the creation of substance or having to do with the creation of life.
Okay.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. I really appreciated it.
Awesome.
Anybody else got a word to ask Dennis? Because you can't ask me because I don't know the answer.
I don't have a question, but we just started your book this weekend. So we're about a third of the way through. And honestly, it's like a foreign language. Really, you kind of go over my head. Science is not my thing at all, but wow, we were driving from our house in Southern California to our farm up here in Northern California, and we were reading your book. I was reading it to him as he was driving, and oh my gosh, the bigness of our daddy. I mean, we were just literally in awe of, you feel like a little kid with, my daddy is so smart. Because this stuff is like, gosh, uber smart. I don't even know a word to use. And you realize, wow, God thought all of this stuff. He's the creator of everything. How smart is our daddy?
Yeah.
Anyway, we were just in awe of I've seen a lot of stuff lately on Facebook with quantum physics, and it's really turned me off of quantum physics because, well, first of all, Christ is just not even included. I mean, there is just no Jesus, but in their teaching. But yours just, gosh, it just made God so big and just creation so big. So we are enjoying your book. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. These are a couple of my favorite people in the world. The Schmidts from California.
Well, in addition, thank you, Doc. In addition to that, I didn't realize, and I love how science validates God and how you were able to
Yeah.
show how, we were actually like, it was like Christmas time for us because it was so much fun to discover all these. Yeah, and it's big talk, but as we're just grabbing it, we're seeing how good God is and how much he cares, and it's like, oh my gosh, all this just finite detail, with us in mind. And honestly, yeah, like my wife said, it really has totally, it's like a whole new, like opening a door to a whole new room. It's bigger than a room, but it's like, oh my goodness. So it's cool. It's very cool. Thank you. Yeah. The way you wrote out your book was amazing. It was, we could, for our level, we could understand it. We could grab it. We could, parse it up and really, digest it. So that was great. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I love hearing that type of excitement about my book, and I get a lot of it, and I always love to hear it because, if we can start wrapping our heads around how incredibly magnificent God is, it's exciting.
Amen.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Very
Good.
cool.
Well, that fires you up, Dennis. You'll be back next week now.
Yeah.
But what time can we start, Dennis? Really, I know you're a different
5
time
o'clock.
frame.
5 o'clock my time, dude.
Be 7 our time.
Yeah.
7 o'clock. That'll work for everybody better.
Okay.
7
So
o'clock
that's
every
Central-
Tuesday night. 7 o'clock Central Standard
Central
Time.
So that's 5 o'clock our time. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Dennis is on your time frame.
Oh, where are you, Dennis?
I'm in Washington State.
Oh, yeah, West Coast. Yeah, nice.
You early
I grew
birds.
up in California.
Anyway, shall we call this a wrap tonight?
Thank
And,
you so much. I really
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
Dennis. We love you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
I will have this recorded and put up on our quantumspirituality.net website this week where we can go and watch it.
Thank you.
All righty. Love you guys.
Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
so much.
All right. Bless you.
Bye.
Blessings to all.
There's some more people over there. Good.